was at the office of Divisional Commissioner Crime Intelligence, Lieutenant General Khumalo, and I took the 118 dockets. 118 were only from KwaZulu-Natal. I handed to the office of General Khumalo.
So if I could just ask you to look at paragraph 14, perhaps you could just read that on page 5. Just from the last, you say that it was an urgent instruction. And at the bottom of page 5, you say this resulted in the process being chaotic. Perhaps you can just read from there to the rest of the paragraph.
I don't know if I should read it on record or you want me to.
Please.
This resulted in the process being chaotic, ordinary. Prior to a transfer, each docket goes through a thorough inspection by the respective branch commanders, confirming that all statements are present and intact. During this process, one is required to ensure that the work is properly recorded in the C-clip. In this case, given the rush, the team scanned the dockets and quickly prepared them for transfer. In some instances, we saw a new statement, but we could not update the C-clip because of the pressure to move the docket. In some instances, the statements were with the investigating officers as the analysts were scrutinizing them for the purpose of the record. I'm saying this, commissioners, because I was informed during the handing of these dockets sometime in August this year that there were some statements that were missing, but then I will deal with that when we get to the topic that is speaking specifically to that. Sometimes you will find that when the IO comes back with the statement, I've learned the detectives through my 7 years working with PKTT. If you allow them, they sometimes become a little bit messy as well, more especially when it comes to docket. Therefore, monitoring of a docket and ensuring that everything is intact, it's important. Myself and you can talk about the evidence and so forth, but if the evidence is not inside the docket and the matter goes to court, that matter will never be will never see a successful prosecution on it. Therefore, sometimes you'll find that the IOs comes and the statement is not attached because he still wants to go through the statement as well and so forth. It's understandable, but he will forget to replace it or put it back.
What statement would this be? Would this be a statement that has just been taken, or are you talking about a statement that would already have been in the docket but would have been removed from the docket? What statement are we talking about?
Either way, or one on the statement that is already taken and was in the docket. Sometimes you find that analyst says, I'm going through the call data and there's something that I'm not satisfied with. Could you please bring me the statement of witness B? I want to compare or analyze it with the call data and see whatever that he says is indeed depleted on the call data, be it because of whoever that he was communicating with, be it the location because you're looking at the towers, where was he transmitting on that particular day or time. That is one. The second one, it can be that after the IO has obtained the statement, he comes back, he wants, on the same day, he wants to just read and understand if indeed this person is telling the truth or not. And subsequently, he forgets to go and file the statement. Therefore, it can be one or another. Thank you, Commissioner.
You were part of the combat team That being so, this may not, or in fact is not, your area of expertise. General Mutsipe, who testified before you,
Yes, Commissioner.
told us that the proper way to do this is to make a copy of the statement and go and use it for whatever purpose you want it for, rather than removing an entire statement or taking out of the docket an entire statement. I don't even know whether I should ask you to comment on that.
Commissioner, thank you for the question. I wouldn't dispute her version, but I can safely say that no statement was removed in the docket purposely and not returned. The statements that are alleged to be missing from the testimony of General Motsepe, all those statements are accounted for. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. So you prepared the dockets, and then you say you did this pre-handover audit where you had a table in which you recorded the status of the docket, and you described that in paragraph 16. And you've explained why you did so. You said you did so that you could have for yourself your own record, and you could answer questions later on if questions were put to you about the dockets.
Yes.
And is that what you're talking about, that's at NPK 1, is that correct? If you can turn to NPK 1.
That is correct, Commissioners. As I was in Pretoria, during that telephone conversation with my TACJOC commanders, I told them that let's prepare this. And this was in corroboration with me because I need not to be there as I was here for other taskings. And I told them that we need to compile this as it's going to assist us going forward.
So in this table that you prepared, and it's for each of the 121 dockets, the last column, well, maybe for the record, I should just say the columns are the docket number, the station and CAS number, the summary of the background of the case, evidence collected, suspects identified, and then the last column is remarks or outstanding, remarks stroke outstanding. What is that last column reflecting?
This is a summary of what needs to be done to continue or making sure that the docket can be taken for further guidance to the prosecutors and subsequently getting the authority to go and effect arrest. So that is some of the outstanding investigation that needed to be executed.
And this is what you noted in March 2025.
Indeed, Commissioners.
Thank you. So you hand over the dockets. Before we just get to the 26th of March and the transporting of the dockets, once these dockets are now removed from the investigating officers, did they have any further role to play in the docket or any further investigation on any of the dockets?
No, Commissioners. The detection, they will not have any further role to play because the dockets are not physically with them. The only thing that they can do is just telephonically, because when you investigate a docket, you sometimes build that relation professionally, so with the victims' families and certain witnesses which prefer or feel protected, if not safe, when they deal with a particular member only. Therefore, that's what they will do. And I must say, in some other instances, that it was not a happy ending, because I think there's a part where we're dealing with victims' family that were not satisfied by moving of these dockets.
Okay, so in paragraph 17, you explain that the dockets were then transported on the 26th of March. What you say is were securely transported to the head office. Who transported them and who handed them over
Okay.
to General Sentumule?
The dockets were transported from KwaZulu-Natal by two combat members, commissioners for their safety. Can I not mention their names? And they were then handed to me. Then on the same day, because I had to rush to the airport to catch a flight to KZN, I handed them to the office of General Khumalo on the same of the day of the 26th. That was the last time I touched the dockets, 26 March.
So you delivered them to the office of General Khumalo on the 26th, and what happened after that you were not involved in, the further handover to General Sentumule?
Correctly so, Commissioners.
Okay. And you had no further, contact with the dockets or investigation or work or nothing? You had nothing more to do with the dockets from that day?
Indeed, the Commissioners, I must also just emphasize that from KwaZulu-Natal, I handed 118 dockets. There were 3 dockets, 2 Umtata dockets and 1 Alice docket that were from Eastern Cape, were not handed by that time. And I communicated with the team that was in Eastern Cape and informed them that they should ensure that those dockets are brought to head office. And indeed, though they arrived late, 23 April, the dockets were brought to head office. I saw a letter of receiver, and they were subsequently sent to or transferred to the office of Divisional Commissioner, Forensic and Detective General Sentumule as well. So that then made the total number to be 121.
Okay, then there's a hiatus of 5 months from the end of March to the end of August. Can you tell us what happens on the 27th and 28th?
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's get straight back to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry.
I think there is, if one has flew, catch a flight, more especially the route between Johannesburg and Cape Town, there's quite a lot of turbulence. And when you hit that moment of turbulence and your flight move from a certain level, goes down, the moment it reach the air again and it starts to flow, you feel uncertain. And ask yourself, what is actually happening? Is the pilot safe? Are we safe? You look around and so forth. It was that moment, because we didn't know that we're going forth, back and all that, but we had confidence in our executive officials that a proper decision will then be taken, because in essence of what we are doing, we are all police officers and we fight crime. Commissioners, nothing happened between that period on these under investigation dockets. Nothing at all.
You got the dockets back?
Yes.
In August?
Yes.
Let's just start there before we talk about what happened in the 5 months. So were you then tasked to go to head office to collect the dockets? Is that what happened?
Commissioners, thank you. I received a call again from General Khumalo on the 25th of August, informing me that there will be a 2-day handing over of the same docket that was brought down to head office. And a venue and time has been arranged for that process to take place. I then phoned PKTT members and requested 2 of the branch commanders and 1 other member to come and join me for that process to take place. I think one had about 2 days at least, and could make means and ensure that the process this time around is more professional. And we are able to account for everything that we are doing. Then on the 27th, we gathered at a venue that was identified, and myself, my 3 members from PKTT and 3 members from head office, consisting of the kennels. We sat down and we started the process of handing back the dockets to PKTT. We started by counting the dockets physically before we can go to statement by statement if they are still intact. Mind you, commissioners, that we made copies before the dockets could come. And we were comparing that with what we are again getting. Because before we started that process, I informed one of the kennels that, this is the process that we are going to do. And the kennel said, no, but then, Khumalo, this is not what we did on the 28th of March, when the dockets were handed to the office of generals in Tumula. I said, I was not there. Therefore, the process of handing over, I need to account for each and everything. This is the process that we are going to do. That is why it took us 2 days. And I think even the senior officers, for them to allocate 2 days, they anticipated for that. Or else, we could have just came there and say, these are the docket, 121, we leave. But because we went into depth of those particular inspection, that is why we could then pick up that instead of 121, there was actually 123 dockets. How then we get to 123 is because the other 2 dockets were very slim and they were in between the docket, one docket itself. They were in between them. So that is why we couldn't, because of the rush. I guess even head office, because they were like, no, it can't be. We got 121 dockets, but then we are getting 123. And they accepted that.
So, hold on, let me pause you there. You're saying now, in August, when you are inspecting the dockets being returned to you, there are 123.
Yes.
Those 2 additional dockets were slipped into others because they were these slim folders. Yes. But were they originally there in March when they were given to the head office?
Surely they were there. It's unfortunate that we never picked them up because according to our categories, those dockets were filed as closed. They were not supposed to come down because they were not under investigation.
They were closed files already.
Yes. So
the head office hadn't picked that up either.
Head office didn't pick that up because they were also amazed that there is 2 extra dockets during that process. But then one might say that it was one of those oversight issues. Then we sat down, commissioners, and we started with the process of handing over. And through the handing overs, one must mention that there is comments that were noted and fairly so by the head office team in respect of the investigation that was conducted by the PKTT. The comments are on SAP 5. And maybe if I can draw the commissioners on page 10 of my statement.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the ANC has tightened its rules and guidelines to select candidates to represent the party ahead of the 2026 local government elections. This was announced by the party's electoral committee at media briefing at the ANC's headquarters in Johannesburg today. International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamula, says South Africa will not again allow any flights carrying undocumented Palestinians willing to enter the country with the view that they seek to apply for refugee status. And the triathlon community is still reeling in shock following the death of two men who competed in the Ironman Challenge at the Mossel Bay in the Western Cape yesterday. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, rain falling across parts of the province, so please proceed with care on wet road surfaces. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, queuing towards Crown Interchange, and the N12 eastbound in Oakdene has a truck crash reported after Klip River Drive, and multiple lanes has been closed as a result. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction, the N3 southbound in Pietermaritzburg, a stationary vehicle before Market Road, and the M7 eastbound slow moving towards the container depot. In Cape Town, Duval Road is where a crash is reported at Deep River. Main Road is slow moving through Deep River as a result of that crash, and Main Road also has a crash reported in Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The Jet Set Breakfast.
Jeffrey, talk to us about when you went on the initiation at the age of 12.
What we're told is that it's a beautiful place. It's not really in the bush. It's some sort of heaven, paradise, life. But when I got in there, it was something else. I couldn't feel the thing that could make me a man or feel like I'm a man. So I was shocked, but I endured. Yes.
You might find, Jeffrey, that there are people that listen to this and say, yes, but this is our culture, and therefore it remains as part of culture. How would you respond to that?
It is my culture too, but I'll ask them and the country as a nation, is it better to die as Africans than to live as human beings?
Michelle Constant on the Jet Set Breakfast. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. This is SAFM Sports with Domin Kapele.
To me, 2 weeks away, Springboks were world champions when I left. They're still the world champions now. You're going to start talking about them too.
Listen, welcome back. First thing
Thank you.
first. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed yourself and your trip in
I
Paris.
watched the Boks play France. I was
Nice.
there.
Yeah. I'm sure it was
Terrific.
absolutely terrific.
But a great atmosphere. Fantastic. but also a great team once again, playing the entire second half with 14 men
14.
and only conceding 3 points in that second half.
Sure.
There's something remarkable about the strategy led by Rassie Erasmus and then executed by, the captain and the rest of the team. Something we
Absolutely.
can all learn from in all sectors of South African society, not just in rugby. But it's been a great sporting weekend, by the way, for our sporting teams. I mean,
Yeah,
probably not enough time to mention all, but I have to
absolutely.
say it. Hold it, man. So the rugby
Can I
team.
do my sports? And
Oh,
I know
I
you're
wanted to give a
excited.
shout out. I
Do.
just have to in one line.
Please.
I mean, the cricket team, the box, as we know, Bafana, and the women's team winning in the African women's tournament in rugby. Okay,
Yeah.
I've said my piece. Thank you.
Absolutely, proudly and loudly South African. Well, talking about the Springboks, they will host England, Scotland, Wales in July next year in the first edition of the New Nations Championship. So basically, the tournament, which is created by Sanza and Six Nations Rugby, brings together the world's top 12 rugby nations in a competition that will happen every 2 years to determine the best team in the game. South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, Japan, and Fiji will represent the Southern Hemisphere, while the Six Nations teams, which is England, France, Ireland, Italy, Scotland, and Wales, make up the Northern Hemisphere group. Meanwhile, we're very happy for the Springboks, as Ashraf did mention earlier on, obviously, that win over Italy and doing that with 14 men in 2 consecutive games. And these red cards are a big concern for Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus, but he has hailed his squad's adaptability under pressure, but also feels sad for those who bear the consequences of the red card disruption. He actually says he's for the 20-minute red card, which basically says when a player gets a red card, they're out for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, a different player comes in to replace them. Now, the Springboks turn their attention to Ireland, whom they face in Dublin this weekend before wrapping up their European end-of-year tour with a test against Wales in Cardiff the following week. In terms of cricket, Proteas test coach Shukri Conrad says that Captain Themba Bavuma was one of the best batters in the world over the past 2 years. His comments come after Bavuma's unbeaten 55 at Eden Gardens, which helped South Africa secure a 30-run victory in the first test against India. Now, Bavuma is also unbeaten as a test captain, winning 10 of his 11 matches in charge with one draw and averaging 57 with the bat in that period. In terms of football, South Africa football is finally moving towards embracing technology, with VAR set to be trialed during the Nedbank Cup semi-finals in April next year. SAFA have appointed a dedicated VAR project team, and the system, which is the public internet version of VAR, which is tipped to suit South African conditions. And project leader Daniel Bennett says that, who just comes from Spain, says he went to Spain just to observe how VAR is implemented in top-level competitions.
The hopefully starting matches that the committee have decided on is probably the 2 Nedbank Cup semi-finals, and take it from there and see how it goes, because we'd like to outroll this for the next season, obviously, and be one of the 4 players in African football.
So you mean testing it in the semi-finals and final of Nedbank Cup
There's
next
talk
year?
of that from SAFA, that's their baseline, their test line. If it's not ready, it's not ready. We can't do that. But if we can crack onto the budgets really quickly, those semi-finals are probably around the end of April, beginning of May. And if it all goes well, maybe we jump onto the fund. Then we can really start training guys in the off season. We'll obviously start training guys in the interim once the system is put into place, because as soon as the systems are there, we can jump onto the training.
Well, Banyana legend Jadid van Veek says that being inducted in the South African Hall of Fame's second Soccer Legends class is a tremendous honor. Van Veek was celebrated alongside some of the country's greats: Phil Masinga, Clive Barker, Aaron Mokoena, Mark Williams, Mark Fish, and Dr. Khumalo.
Well, all I can say is that I'm deeply honored that the South African Fame is recognized for beyond individual achievement, and passion that I love. So to so iconic who have unnaturally humble. Football taught me purpose, taught me resilience, and allowed me to pave the way for future generations of women. So this is a huge honor, and it's a reminder that every challenge, every victory, and every moment of perseverance was worth and I share it with everyone who has believed in me along my journey.
Finally, Super Eagles goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali rather, has apologized to Nigerians. This is following the team's painful World Cup playoff exit to DR Congo, saying that the entire squad accepts full responsibility for the disappointment. DR Congo kept their hopes of a World Cup place alive as they beat Nigeria 4-3 on penalties. This is after a 1-1 draw at the end of extra time to win the African qualifying playoffs in Morocco. So now DRC waits for the draw on Thursday for the Confederation playoffs in March, where 6 teams will chase 2 places at the 48-team finals. But before I go, Ashraf, and I think we'll talk about it just a bit later because we are out of time. What caught my attention was Italy coach Gennaro Gattuso's comments about the World Cup qualification that really upset a number of people. And I think he shares the same sentimentals as you in terms of the expanded way and the qualifying system, as you feel like now it seems a bit easier. But one thing he said, he feels that now it's harder for European teams to qualify despite an increase in the number of teams competing in the final tournament. And then he went on to say back in 1994, there were 2 African teams in the world. Now there are just too many in terms of this expansion.
And that's why we shouldn't talk about him, because he's talking nonsense. Bye.
This November, SAFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
I do want to say that in the public service, there are also checks and balances. The fact that people may not have applied doesn't mean it's not there.
SAFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser Muleketi. The theme of the lecture is confronting inequality, corruption and unemployment.
Let's hold everyone accountable and to standards, whether you have a GNU or not.
The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Fourways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Reigning champions, the Reds, believe a win at Anfield always brings great euphoria to their fanatics.
He find the cross. He stands to Ekitike, and Kirkes has given Liverpool a lifeline. His first Liverpool goal, and it could be vital just before the break.
While the Trick-or-Treats are searching for a top-of-the-range strategy to defeat the Reds.
Driven in by Nico Williams. Well, it may have taken Liverpool 95 minutes to break Burnley down.
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling contest between Liverpool FC versus Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 22 November at 4:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, we know what's topic number 1, what moves the pulse, is the Madlanga Commission, and that's where we go, and you'll hear the 2 voices, Lieutenant Colonel Ntate Khumalo, and being led by the evidence leader, Advocate Adila Hassan.
Also, commissioners bring you on board that this is now the police system. There is certain system that are being applied. I'm not going to put myself on the corner because that is now the detective work to update the system. 2, when the matter goes to court and is remanded for a future date, and the reason for that reminding must also be updated on the system. Therefore, that always, because this is assist in head office monitoring, happens that the case is being moved from this particular IO to another one, we will be able to see as well on the system where was the investigation, what was happening on the investigation. Therefore, this case was provincially withdrawn, and when we look at it as well, we saw that it's not going to assist us at all in our investigation, and not much was then done on it, because we could see that whatever that we went for in East London, we were able to address. which were the killings within the University of Fort Hare. And as a plus, numerous cases, or one case with a lot of suspect or accused, then was registered and people were arrested on the corruption and fraud charges.
That was over and above the charges you were there to investigate.
Indeed, Commissioners.
Okay, so thank you. You've clarified that docket, which is the first one in the bundle for Alice. Can we please turn to the second docket? And this one is on page 4, and it's an Amanzi Mtoti case.
Yes, Commissioners.
Okay, so the first page is the cover page of the docket, we now know. The next page is from the C-clip.
Yes, Commissioner.
So it looks like the last 2 pages of the C-clip have been reproduced in each of these sets.
Indeed.
So page 6, is that the last page then of the C-clip?
It is the last page, Commissioners.
And if we look at, can you actually explain, we've got about 3 entries here, it seems. The first one in black at the top, then the second in red, that's in March 25, and then there's another set of notes in a different handwriting below that in red. Can you just explain each of those entries?
Let me first explain that from the 4 categories I spoke about, Commissioners, political, ad hoc, parallel, and traditional. This is one of the dockets or cases that falls under traditional leaders' cases. And when we received this docket in April, it was quite a lot of them, 50 of them. And 48, it was murder, 1 kidnapping, 1 attempted murder. Therefore, whilst we were busy investigating the political related cases, we received this mandate. And we couldn't investigate all of them at a time. There's 5 dockets that received attention, and we were able to take those 5 dockets to court. There's one already whereby suspect has been convicted. Therefore, this is part of the dockets that haven't received any investigation. What we did, it was the analysis. Just like when I said from the head office team that they went through the docket of Umtata 286. As I was saying, there was no investigation done because no additional statement was attached on the docket, just like this. The first inspection there on top, it's by one of the PKTT investigator. That is on 2025-03-24. She's addressing that those instructions to the branch commander. And then on the 25, then the branch commander also made an entry. And I don't know if I should read this on record.
Sorry, just before you go to the 20, so 24 March, the investigating officer makes an entry saying that she's received instructions on this docket and it will be complied with. Does that come from the analysis, the team meeting, or where does that come from?
This comes from the analysis, which we, as I alluded earlier on, that when we got this docket, we sat down. What we did, commissioners, we first tried and see, can we, with all the analysts, look at what is still outstanding, critical evidence, your ballistic report, your LCRC report. And on a ballistic report, can we group these dockets and see which firearms, which cases are related or a certain firearm was used on. When I speak about firearms, we've got rifles, we've got 9mm, we've got shotguns and all that. But then with the grouping then, we said on the rifle, we've got ballistics experts that are able to tell that on this particular rifles, there's two groupings.
Colonel, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and it is interesting, and maybe we can return to it. But for now, the purpose, what I'm just trying to understand what happened here. This investigating officer, after a meeting that you've already described how those meetings work and how the analysis works, received those instructions or taskings.
Yes.
And she says instructions noted and will be complied with, right?
Yes.
But she doesn't enter what those particular taskings are. Is that contained somewhere else?
Yes, we do have those taskings on our daily tasking report and weekly report.
Okay. So she makes this entry on 24 March 2025.
Yes, Commissioners.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Then you can move on to the next one. The next entry is the next day.
Yes, this is now the branch commanders that is preparing the docket, because if you look at it, it's on the 25th. This is the day when I phoned and told them that prepare the docket, they need to come down to head office. Then the officer that did the inspection is giving that entry, that officer in charge, because he doesn't know who's going to deal with the matter. The investigation has not yet commenced. Here we've received docket for perusal and for your directives.
Okay. So that entry is made by the PKTT officer?
Indeed.
Okay. The next entry then. Can you tell us the date and who made this entry and what it's about?
This is the entry of a lieutenant colonel in head office. Can I not mention his name? Because I think
That's
it's
fine.
visible enough. And the entry was done on the 19th of March, 2025.
Is that March or May?
Oh, sorry, it's May. Sorry, the ink is not visible enough here. It's May. And then he's then giving an instruction. Firstly, say IO, docket for further investigation. Obtain the photo album and file it in the docket. Obtain the chain statement regarding the handling of the body. Obtain the body identification statement. Obtain the statement, the chain statement from that person that he's mentioning regarding the 2 bullet heads received from mortuary. And then the 6th instruction there is obtain the chain statement regarding the handling of the bullet. And then the 7th, obtain the duty officer statement from that particular captain. And then the last one was then obtain ballistic report. So these are all the entries that are made by an officer in head office.
Okay. So each of these dockets, those that were inspected, would have this kind of entry on the last page of the C-clip. Is that right?
That's right. The 92 that were inspected will have such.
And it would be May 2025, between 19 and I think the 30th or something.
Yeah, between 19 and 25, if I'm not mistaken, of May.
Okay. And all of these comments, you say, you then reproduced into the table you produced for NPK2?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. Now, if we can then go to your paragraph 23.
Okay, Commissioners.
So in paragraph 23, you don't reproduce, because you've done it already in NPK2. What you do in 23 is you just sort of categorize and summarize the comments that were made by head office, as I understand your paragraph 23. Please let me know if I'm wrong.
That is correct. That's the summary that I gave in terms of the auditing or inspection.
So there are from 23.1 to 23.16 is where you list the comments.
Yes, Commissioner.
So my first question is, did these comments accurately capture the status of the investigation in the dockets, in each of the dockets?
Maybe I should mention that this might not be 100% accurate, Commissioners. Why I'm saying that, the investigation progress it's supposed to be updated on the SAP5. But then due to the methodology that the PKTT applied, we were using this tasking, daily tasking and weekly tasking reports, where we felt it's important for commanders as well, because we were there for that only, to monitor and follow each and every investigation that was happening on the docket. That's one. Two, one of the reasons that they might not be accurate is the fact that the quick movement of transferring this docket, as I said earlier, it was very messy. And the dockets remained behind by mistake. I heard earlier on that
you said dockets remain behind by mistake. Did you mean statements?
Statements in a file, yes. And then those statements, they were for certain dockets. I think the witness earlier on mentioned 3 cases. And I did tell the senior counsel that all those dockets on those 3 cases are accounted for and are intact. Actually, one docket, I think it was Umlazi case, that the statement came to Pretoria. It's unfortunate that the indexing was not, SAP5 indexing was not talking to the statement on the A clip. I'll make an example. On the A clip, the statement is for witness Kumalo as number 7, because you write on the right top corner of the statement. Then on the C clip, you are writing that statement of the witness and Kumalo obtained. And if you want to give a summary, you can do that if you want, and you say A7. But what the investigating officer, the lead investigator that was investigating that particular case did is he indexed the statement as number 9, whereas on the A clip is number 7. That's what confused the members that were doing the inspection from head office. But upon poking more holes from the team, they send me all those outstanding statements, and I've got them on my device.
Colonel, can I ask you a question? I mean, my little knowledge of audit, whatever it is that you audit whatever you are auditing. You make your findings, whether positive or adverse.
Yes.
You then give the person responsible the opportunity to respond to your adverse findings. And then once you have their response, then you finalize your audit. Is that how you understand it?
That's how I understand it too, Commissioner.
Because, as you say, I could have filed a statement, but in the wrong folder, but it is there. Yes, but because the index says it is in folder A, the person who's doing the audit, if they don't find the statement in folder A, they will assume that there is no statement.
There's no statement.
Whereas it has been misfiled in a different folder.
That's correct, Commissioner. I think on the first handing over of March, because it was within 24 hours, we never picked that up. The dockets came down, head office did their auditing, and sat down with us as well. We did not pick that up. But the moment I got then their report and mentioning this, I said, let me follow up on this. Upon phoning the team and say, can you go to this docket, look at it properly, ask the investigating officer if did he ever remove any statement. They found the statement actually intact in the docket. It's just that it was a wrong filing.
But now that you've done your own, you've audited the auditor.
Yes.
Have you gone back to head office in Pretoria to say the queries you raised in your draft audit report, actually here are the responses to it. Can you now update your audit report? Because for each of those, I mean, you mentioned...
Okay, that's where we'll pause the Madlanga Commission for now. Let's get to the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, ANC tightens its rules on candidate selection and UN Security Council to vote on Gaza-Israel peace plan. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good afternoon. The ANC has tightened its rules and guidelines to select candidates to represent the party ahead of the 2026 local government elections. This was announced by the party's electoral committee at a media briefing at the ANC's headquarters in Johannesburg today. The party says the revised rules are aimed at improving the capacity of its councillors to provide strategic direction and oversight to municipalities. Amongst the selection criteria is that candidates must possess a metric certificate and/or have the capacity or experience to make a constructive contribution within the municipal council. ANC electoral chairperson Kgalema Motlanthe.
The minimum qualification is now mandatory, and also that the mayoral candidates for the metros and the secondary cities shall be handled by the national officials. This is to ensure that they select people who bring expertise and the requisite qualifications to occupy those positions.
International Relations and Cooperation Minister Ronald Lamola says South Africa will not again allow any flights carrying undocumented Palestinians willing to enter the country with the view that they seek to apply for refugee status. He says it seems there's an orchestrated operation to remove people from Palestine to different parts of the world. This follows flights with Palestinians landing at the OR Tambo International Airport without proper documentation. Addressing the media in Nasrec, Johannesburg, on the G20 State of Readiness for the Leaders Summit this weekend, Lamola says government is investigating this matter.
We are suspicious as the South African government about the circumstances surrounding the arrival of the plane and the passengers that were in the plane. And this matter is a subject of investigation that must be thoroughly investigated, and the South African public will know at some stage. But it is indeed an issue of concern to us. It does look like it represents a broader agenda to remove Palestinians from Palestine.
Defense witness Absalom Zungu says he feels aggrieved that his name was mentioned during the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, as this could lead to bloodshed. Zungu is testifying at the High Court in Pretoria, where 5 men are on trial for the 2014 murder of Meyiwa. It is alleged that Zungu gave the investigating team a breakthrough in the case by allegedly mentioning that accused 1, Moses Sibiya, and 2, Bongani Ndanzi, had a hand in the murder of Bafana Bafana captain. Responding to advocate Zandile Mshololo, Zungu says these allegations could incite violence.
That's why I was bothered with the fact that Kininda is mentioning my name, and it's dangerous, not in a good way.
Kubuhlungu ngenye indlela umemezela ukuthi laba abantu babeboshiwe nje kuliwe balwe nama ngithi.
I was very hurt with what Gininda said before the sport, mentioning my name. What he did by mentioning my name, he was inciting violence.
The triathlon community is still reeling in shock following the death of two men who competed in the Ironman Challenge at Mossel Bay in the Western Cape yesterday. Organizers of the event said the men, aged 29 and 58, were extracted from the water during the swimming portion. The mayor of Mossel Bay, Dirk Kotze, who also competed, has shared his condolences with families and friends.
It is with the deepest regret that I've learned of the passing of two male athletes, 129 and 158, that partook in the Ironman 70.3 yesterday in Mossel Bay. As mayor and fellow participant, our deepest sympathy to the families and loved ones who lost their lives in Mossel Bay. May their souls rest in peace.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has secured an important deal to obtain air defense hardware from France. He signed the agreement to acquire up to 100 Rafale jet fighters, missile and drone systems with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron at an airbase near Paris. The two men also inspected the fledgling headquarters of a planned multinational force that may one day oversee a Ukrainian-Russian ceasefire. The BBC's Hugh Schofield has the details.
The headquarters is kind of only just beginning to be set up, but it is there. There is a physical place where military people from France, from Britain, and elsewhere are beginning to talk about what would happen if there were a ceasefire and if this putative force had to go in. It needs to be ready, and so that's what's happening there.
Recapping the top story, the ANC has tightened its rules and guidelines to select candidates to represent the party ahead of the 2026 local government elections. This was announced by the party's electoral committee at a media briefing at the ANC's headquarters in Johannesburg today. I'm Ondela Mbana for SAFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Springbok Women's 7th African Crown revives World Series hopes and Joshua to fight YouTube star Paul in December. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Pretoria is where stationary truck is reported at Linwood Road, and the N3 southbound in Bedfordview is where stationary vehicles reported at Van Buren Road. In KZN, the N3 southbound in Pietermaritzburg has a stationary vehicle before Market Road and South Coast Road slow moving at the M7 highway. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive northbound in Goodwood has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions before Voortrekker Road, and Jan van Riebeeck Drive in Parow has roadworks with traffic restrictions between Epping Avenue and Francie van Zyl Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This November, SAFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
I do want to say that in the public service, there are also checks and balances. The fact that people may not have applied doesn't mean it's not there.
SAFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser Muleketi. The theme of the lecture is confronting inequality, corruption and unemployment.
Let's hold everyone accountable and to standards, whether you have a GNU or not.
The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Fourways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It's interesting. Chumi asked me off air. So, what was it like? The weather in Paris in Germany, and I said much like Joburg is today. It's like 13 degrees maximum, and that's what it is. So I've just come back from chilly weather in Europe to chilly weather in Johannesburg, and I think most parts of South Africa as well. Clearly, these climate changes are having an effect and the evidence is there, isn't it? Right, talking about evidence, so we're moving away from the Madlanga Commission and get onto other programming, and there's some interesting things we're going to be talking about. But I'll tell you now, I welcome your thoughts. We'll open the lines later on, but you can drop us the WhatsApp comment right away. We'll bank it and play them as soon as we can. So feel free to add your thoughts in terms of what you've heard today. I did also say that, like, this is a big week for South Africa. It's a big week because it culminates in the G20 summit over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and there's a whole lot of events still happening right now in the build-up to this weekend. So it's a huge, huge week for South Africa. What are your thoughts, just listening in and having observed the build-up to G20, notwithstanding what Trump said, because it can't be about Trump? What do you feel? I mean, just now, what are your expectations around G20 and how it's being played out, and how you think South Africa and Africa can benefit from this coming together of the global leaders of the world, right? Well, talking about leaders, what about the leadership of the African National Congress, right? There have been reports over the weekend that suggested that the ANC president, who's also the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, had dared his political detractors to within the ANC National Executive Committee to give him a date by which he should resign. There's also been a counter argument to say no such thing happened. Either way, there's been huge speculation about just that over the weekend. Now, the SABC News political reporter is Ntebo Mokobo, joins me on the line to break down what actually happened. Ntebo Mokobo, SABC News politics reporter, thanks for joining us. You are now connected to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listener. Yes,
Right.
indeed. I mean, you correctly pointed out that President Ramaphosa dared his supporters to tell him that when he must step down, he will gladly do that. In fact, Ashraf, the president is alive to the political machinations in the ANC. He knows that at some point, when the ANC dipped around 40%, there were calls within the ANC that he must step down because his leadership, together with the entire NEC collective, have failed the ANC. Now the ANC has lost elections. He knows that at some point people wanted him to step down. He knows that, I mean, even after the panel report by former Justice Sandy Lengobo on his Phala Phala, that there were people who were calling for him to step down. In fact, even at the time, President Mbeki once said that if there is any finding against him, what should happen? It means the president has to step aside. He knows about those things. And now what broke the camel's back is that there's been a letter that was circulated. We're told that has been circulated in some within the ranks of the ANC in the Eastern Cape, where people are saying that he must step down together with the NEC, and of course, NEC did it with national testing, and this was led by former President Mbeki. We've seen the to and fro where the league was trying to defend itself from that could cause divisions within the ANC. But the president, in political reports, he wanted to address. He addressed that in that meeting, and at the end, he even made sure that he doesn't allow the media to be part of that because he wanted to really express himself in terms of what he thinks needs to happen. And at some point, he even challenged some NEC members. He would call Ashraf that, I mean, since I think around 2021, it became like compulsory for government officials to subject themselves to lifestyle audit. He even used the opportunity yesterday that people during the NEC, that people who sit in the NEC must subject themselves to lifestyle audit, because it seems the ANC, I mean, with the evidence that comes out of the Madlanga Commission, the ANC is run like a mafia organization, or it's been run like a mafia style where people are not even accountable, and that was seen as one push, a broader push for renewal. You would recall again, that I mean, last month, I think the NEC, there was an NEC last month. In that NEC, after that NEC, Secretary General also mentioned that all ANC members must be subjected to lifestyle. So those are the political machinations that are coming up.
So let's break it down. The fact that I I was away, came back over the weekend, read lots of things about what may have happened and did not happen. The fact that he actually had to say what he just said, how significant is that? Although there's been the counter argument that there's no such thing of a move to remove him. I see, Snooki Zikalala making that point as well. But the fact that the president had to say that, that's not being disputed, right? That he actually said so.
It hasn't been disputed, but you would recall that, immediately after the Phala saga, he wanted to step. He was convinced by the likes of Gwede Mantashe, Godongana, Monty Gungubele to stick around. Because they looked amongst themselves that if the president goes, who's going to lead the ANC? And some people in the ANC are trying to convince him to stay because at some point in the ANC, I think around 2017, when Secretary General was still actually, I asked him, are we going to have President Ramaphosa finishing his term? Because the president has been set in the ANC. Well, as the Secretary General, then he was all over. He was not really direct in terms of president will stay or the president won't finish his term. But at some point, the president was willing to step down, and he knows very well that there are people who don't want him to be president. If they want him to step down, he said he will gladly do that. People mustn't go and sit in the corner. They must come and raise that in the NEC, and it will be deliberated in the NEC. And to recall, there is a National General Council that is coming in 3 weeks' time. Some people would want to use that National General Council to have a poster or a makeup that has got something to do with, let's have it as a special national conference as opposed to the National General Council. Because there are a number of things that are happening. In the ANC, 8 years into its democracy, ANC has dipped below 50%. There's now a lame duck, really a government. It's leading government in a lame duck way. It hasn't got no power.
Has there been a response from when the president gave this, give me a date ultimatum, right? Sometimes it can be seen as a person who really wants to leave, but sometimes it's a defiant act to say, show me something better if you can, otherwise keep quiet, right? Has there been a response to that from some of the ANC senior members who were maybe part of that NEC meeting?
Well, the ANC through its spokesperson yesterday, because we pitched her on that. That is the acting spokesperson, Nongebo Mhlawuli. He said that there is nothing like that. The ANC NEC was elected in 2022. Those people, together with the president, the NEC members, together with the president, they will finish their term. These are just talk on the podium. Behind the scenes, there are a number of things that are happening. As I'm saying that some people are trying to use the National General Council, that it's not just going to be a midterm review. It is going to be a midterm review, but they will be asking themselves, since the election of this NEC and the top 7 officials, what had happened? The midterm review will have to look at 2022 until 2025 now. That's the midterm. In 2022, the ANC, together with President Ramaphosa as the president, elected this National Executive Committee and the top 7 officials. What had happened? 2 years later, that leadership collective lost elections. 2 years later, we've seen what is happening at the Madlanga Commission. So there are a number of issues that people will try to hang on, to use it, to say maybe the time has come for the president to step down. And I think President Cyril Ramaphosa is very clear, he's yielding on his stance that if people want him out, well, he will gladly do that as long as he's told by the National Executive Committee. The NEC feels that he must go, he will do that.
All right, now you've got your ears to the ground. What's likely to happen?
You mean when the NGC happens?
No, what's likely to happen in terms of the future of Ramaphosa? That means one thing is, him issuing ultimatums. Others is maybe others issuing ultimatums. But what practically may happen? And one goes back to what happened with former President Thabo Mbeki as well as Jacob Zuma. So what's likely to happen with Ramaphosa now?
It's inevitable, Ashraf. When the NEC, when the NGC happens, people don't think President Cyril Ramaphosa will finish his term. It's inevitable. That precedent has been set, and beggars are out for him. People are trying to use 40% election outcomes of the ANC as one thing that they will use against him to say he has failed this much. The ANC has lost under him. So people are trying to use those who don't like him but he's not a hard or a difficult really opponent. He's willing to step down if the NEC decides on its majority, using its majority to say maybe the president must. But some people in the ANC are saying they try to avoid that because they don't want this, for a lack of a better word, accidental president. You would recall at some point that when former President Mbeki was removed, Palema Mutante came in as the caretaker president. That person is the president, but he's never been the president of the ANC. Got all the benefits, is the former president now. And if you remove President Ramaphosa, then you'll have to bring someone who's not even elected as president of the ANC. Person will become president. And again, because the president is there, let's say that person becomes president and then he gets removed for his term because the president is there. Again, we'll have an accidental president. So you'll have many people who are accidental presidents, but politically in the realm of politics, call them caretaker presidents.
Well, fine. Let's end with this. A quick answer on this one. I mean, who's likely to be that president? Do we have a name?
Well, for now, there hasn't been because they are saying that the president Mbeki, to avoid this accidental president, then someone like the former president Mbeki, and if possible, you can even get former president Mutante become a caretaker president while the president is no longer there. But the constitution allows that if the president goes, don't have the national trustees. If the president goes, then the deputy president ascends, and when the deputy president ascends, even if he doesn't get elected as president of the ANC, by virtue of him being the deputy president of the ANC, becoming the president of the country, he would have obviously been seen as a former president as well.
Okay,
Just like
got that. Well, I think the big issue for all of us listening in is it correct that the ANC can be punished, or the president can be punished for the dealings of the ANC in terms of the 40%, or have they had some gains? And seriously, how true is this, and what's going to happen to the ANC if and when Ramaphosa then is forced to walk away, and who will replace him to take over the leadership of the African National Congress? And did I say South Africa? Yes, no, maybe. Let's leave it at that. Thanks for your time, Ntebo Mokobo. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer, or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand, and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So from one issue within the African National Congress to another issue that impacts on the whole country, not that the first one does not, right? And that's this story of the Special Investigating Unit confirming that its investigation into alleged academic irregularities at the University of Fort Hare will continue. That's the key. It will continue, despite a recent High Court ruling that declared an earlier probe into the Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyani's into him as unconstitutional, right? So let's understand what the position then really is of the SIU. With me is the spokesperson for the SIU, Kaiser Kganyago. Good to chat with you as always, Kaiser. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and the listeners.
Right. Give us some context here. First of all, in terms of the High Court ruling declaring that probe unconstitutional, and therefore beyond that, the reason for the SIU to continue with its own investigations.
Yeah, I think the listeners must understand that the proclamation that we are talking about was issued. The proclamation was what for there were other factors that were involved, but the main issue in this was the awarding of qualification. And then we then went in, and that proclamation was saying we must look at the honors degree, what the whistleblower had said for us in the university. Therefore, we then said, okay, let's investigate. But while we're investigating, we then saw a link from the honors into other degrees like masters and so on. Then when we wanted to ask questions, including questions from the premier then took us and then got an interdict to stop us from investigating him because the proclamation doesn't say we was investigating us. And we said, but we are dealing with it because it was related to the other one. But that is how it happened. And when that happened, there were two parts. One was the interdict, two was the main case, which is what this judgment that you are talking about is all about. Before the judgment could happen, we then decided, let's go back to the president, then apply for an amendment of that proclamation. New proclamation was done in 2024, which now includes the honors, masters, and the doctorate. And that is what we are using now in this case. Therefore, out of this court, in relation to the previous proclamation, and we are now in the present proclamation. Therefore, whatever happened there is moved, we cannot then block from continuing.
Okay, so you see no contradiction, which is what others may have found, like some anomaly. You don't see an anomaly, right?
So there isn't any anomaly. The matter that was before court was in relation with the 2022 proclamation. We are no more using that proclamation. We are now using 24 proclamation, which includes the masters, and we are going to investigate all the masters and doctorates and all the other things, investigate that proclamation. Therefore, no one has challenged that proclamation before. We continue.
Okay. Therefore, give us some timelines in terms of what then happens next.
Yeah, at the moment, we are very far in as far as the investigation is concerned. We very soon, maybe early in the new year, we will give the endings around this matter, and then we'll move forward from there. We are in a very advanced stage. We'll continue. The judgment is supposed to.
Okay. And, I suppose the broader question, and it doesn't necessarily be as narrow as the conversation we've just having, is the need for the public, once again, to be seeing that justice continues to be served in a very skeptical public, isn't it? I mean, that shouldn't color any investigations, but it must be at the bottom of the mind of all investigations anyway.
Well, definitely, and as you might know from our communication side in the SIU, we go back to the public, we give them or when they are report that we give the public. And we'll continue to do that. This one is the way it is because we didn't go out there and say we are investigating something that relates to criminal. He is the one who went and then went to court to say that he wants to block us from investigating him. Therefore, we are investigating the qualifications for there. We will continue to do that. We'll give the public the outcomes when they are available, when the court process is finalized.
Okay, and I mean, maybe difficult to say, but any idea when that may happen?
Yeah, when you deal with the matters that are before the court, it's not something that you can easily do. We're hopeful that early in the new year we will have some indicator.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Kaiser Kanyako, the SIU spokesperson. Much appreciate you giving up your time here on the National Pulse, right? There's further comments from you, which we'll pick up, and I did mention that we'll have time to play some voice notes as well. So just a quick one on the earlier conversation I had with the Uber driver. So I see he's listening in and he's responded, and that's Sitwell Ntokozo saying, "A warm welcome and back on this cold weather. Thanks for gracing me with your presence. I'm really honored, and you've got my pulses racing. Continue with a good job with your team. Thank you." Yeah, that is the conversation I had with my Uber driver before I got on air this today, right? Now, I've been away for 2 weeks, as you know. What have I missed? What are the big issues that I've missed that has certainly got your pulses racing? And then perhaps as we get into this big week for G20, seriously, there must be some really important expectations you have. What are those expectations? Here's one quick one.
Ashraf, welcome back. I think it's about time that the constitution of the country or the electoral system has to be reviewed, Ashraf. There is no way that a political party with a certain number of members could elect their president and that president could become the president of the country. I think it's about time. I know it's a far-fetched dream, but then I know it's going to happen one day where people will vote directly for their president.
Well, many people are pushing for that. That will require, as you quite rightfully have said, a constitutional change, one. But, notwithstanding that, I mean, we have the right to change the constitution if we all agree with it. But is it a route that we actually want to follow? A direct voted president, rather, a directly voted in president, as opposed to us voting for a party that then chooses the leader of their party to become the leader of the country. You dwell on that. I'd like to get your thoughts. In fact, I'll take your calls on that just now. Right now, let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the ANC is looking to get the best possible candidates to occupy senior positions and that of councillors in municipalities post the 2026 local government elections. Lieutenant Colonel Ndate Khumalo says the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal political killing stars team happened suddenly as though he was being struck by lightning. Khumalo is currently testifying about the disbandment of the PKTT and the subsequent handing over of the 121 dockets to the head office. And the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, has dismissed the judgment to sentence her to death as politically motivated and called the use of the death penalty distasteful. A full update follows at the top of the hour with the Godofelo Defo.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 eastbound has a crash at Pitfontein Road. The R21 southbound in Pretoria, a crash on the link to the N1 North and Main Reef Road westbound in Amalgam, queuing towards Dorado Avenue. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle after Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is where veld fire is reported, with smoke affecting visibility after the M5 Koeberg interchange. Spine Road in Khayelitsha is slow moving at Jafta K Masimolo Road, and the N7 northbound in Dunoon has a stationary truck before Malibongwe Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, amongst the big wins of the weekend with the Springbok women, and you want to touch on that, Joey?
Yes, so the Springbok Women's Sevens captain Nadine Roos says that their improved ability to absorb pressure made the difference between the Rugby Africa Women's Sevens Cup win in Kenya and their earlier loss to the same opposition in the HSBC Sevens playoff final in Los Angeles. The Bok women dominated hosts and main contenders Kenya on Sunday in Nairobi, producing a commanding 22-0 victory to clinch the continental title. Now, Roos admitted that the result does offer a measure of redemption after the LA defeat, which forced South Africa to qualify for the new second-tier HSBC Challenger Series via the regional pathway rather than automatically through the Sevens playoff.
In LA, that was also a different pressure that we just couldn't, make use of the pressure and realize that pressure is a privilege. But today we really absorbed the crowds. We really knew that, Kenya is going to come out guns blazing for us. They also have the confidence because they, had a 3-1 win against us this year. But we just came out, we went to being clinical in this game, to execute the game plan to the T. And I think, also our discipline, like I said, on defense, it just really works for us. And then just that fighting spirit from the ladies, it really showed out onto this field.
Moving on to football, Bafana coach Hugo Bruce has admitted that he's got more tough decisions to make before announcing his travel squad for the Africa Cup of Nations. AFCON starts on the 21st of December with Bafana kicking off their campaign on the 22nd against Angola in Morocco.
I'm already thinking about the day that I have to announce 23 players. It will not be easy, certainly for certain positions. So it will be very difficult. And what happens today is that you give playtime on players who didn't play so much in the past, and to see how they are react, how they are adapting to the team tactics and to the team play. And again, I'm certainly satisfied. I'm certainly satisfied, not 100%.
Meanwhile, Stellenbosch FC have been forced into moving the opening fixture of the CAF Confederations Cup group stage to the Peter Mokaba Stadium due to unavailability of the Western Cape venues. Stellies have been drawn into a challenging Group C alongside Siat Ramovic, CR Belouizdad, AS Otago, and Sandiga Black Stars, and they face AS Otago on this weekend. Elsewhere, Curacao could become the smallest nation ever to reach a FIFA World Cup, just needing a draw in Jamaica to seal their spot on Wednesday. Haiti are also chasing glory, while regional heavyweights Costa Rica, Honduras, Jamaica, and Panama battle for 3 automatic places at the expanded 2026 finals in Canada, Mexico, and the US. And group winners qualify directly. The top 2 best runners-up head to March's Confederation playoffs, where 2 more tickets for football's biggest stage will be up for grabs, and the draw for this Inter-Confederation playoffs is going to be on Thursday. In boxing, former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua will fight YouTube star Jake Paul in a professional bout, and that is on the 19th of December in Miami. The fight will be live streamed on Netflix and will consist of 8 3-minute rounds. The bout is a replacement fight for Paul, who was scheduled to take on Davis in an exhibition earlier this month before it was cancelled because of a lawsuit filed against Davis by his ex-girlfriend. Finally, in motorsport, Lando Norris has admitted that he is not looking forward to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. This is due to concerns that McLaren could struggle again at the street circuit. Norris has claimed successive victories in Mexico and Brazil to open a 24-point lead over his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri at the top of the Drivers' Championship, but is far from confident going into the first of the 3 back-to-back races to the end of the season. I'll have more on other sports.
I'll ask you this
Yes.
before you go. So have I got it right? Now remember, I've been away, so I'm like hitting a bit of a hit and miss with everything around me. But Nigeria out of the World Cup.
Nigeria out of
So
the World Cup.
That's a big miss.
I never thought that DR Congo would beat them, and I know that the Nigerian coach is blaming the DRC team for using voodoo.
Yeah. So he
During
also
that
never thought
penalty
they'd be that.
shootout.
He said, "Did you see how he performed?"
I saw he was very angry, and I even saw Minister of Sports entering the conversation saying, Gayton McKenzie saying that no, he'll be watching it closely.
But why?
There
Why
is
is
no
he,
such
why is he getting
performance.
involved in that? Like, what is he
Like,
going to do with him?
yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering why.
I know.
I'm saying that because, with the VAR thing, which he has pushed for, right?
Yeah.
So up to now, VAR in South Africa has been it's not in our vocabulary because we don't use it, right? So when it gets implemented, suddenly there's going to be there's VAR, man, Ishman. But the problem is, why would the Minister of Sport? Can you just imagine him getting involved in
South
VAR
Africa.
conversations? Yeah. Like
In
in
South
this case,
Africa.
yeah. Like even this Nigeria story.
Yes, I'm saying a
It's a
South
football
African
issue.
sports minister talking about that. I mean, there's issues with the Soweto Marathon that still needs to be solved. Like, what's going on, guys?
Okay, well, there we are. You also spoke about the president, Ramaphosa, of the ANC, that is, over the weekend.
Reigning champions, the Reds, believe a win at Anfield always brings great euphoria to their fanatics.
Can he find a cross? He's down to Ekitike, and Kirkes has given Liverpool a lifeline. His first Liverpool goal, and it could be vital just before the break.
While the Trick-or-Treats are searching for a top-of-the-range strategy to defeat the Reds.
Oh, driven in by Nico Williams. Well, it may have taken Liverpool 95 minutes to break Burnley down.
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling contest between Liverpool FC versus Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 22 November at 4:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to those markets with Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good to connect with you. You want to start with We Buy Cars.
Yes, Ashraf, their core headline earnings per share up 3% for the year, impacted by the issue of new shares. But the key drivers were higher volumes, higher selling prices, lower finance costs, and cost efficiency driven by economies of scale. Ashraf trading environment continues to be challenging as there's pressure on consumer affordability and lower banks approval rates, coupled with competition from Chinese brands which have attractive pricing and compelling new vehicle offerings. Revenue up 15%, profit as earnings per share up over 100%, and dividend per share up 20%. Ashraf, the first started with small gains as risk appetite was returning after a soggy end of last week. The focus this week will be on various cases for growth and the health of the economy, with the closely watched September non-farm payroll report due on Thursday, when we also locally get our interest rate information. And the December interest rate cut, that is for the US, and the expectations thereof are fading. And the end of this G20 presidency actually looking in the end of ability or responsibility to promote the issues it prioritized during its presidency and still an must still participate for this through the further participation in the G20 and in international and regional forums. And by the way, after our credit rating was raised on Friday, our bond yield fell to the lowest on record. That's great news for us. And market participants are also assessing rising trade between Japan and China. Mr. Beijing warned its citizens about the travel and study plans in Japan. Oil prices are up as geopolitics counteracted the issue about Russia resuming the loadings at one of their ports. Remember, it was suspended for 2 days. And the yellow method is the rate Ashraf and increased risk aversion in the bets of delayed US rate cut. And heightened economic uncertainty did lead to prepare gold losses. Gold is down 0.3% at 4,072. Platinum is down 6% at 1,536. Equity markets are extending volatility that we've seen so far in November. This question returned later in the session, with the local price being flat and the rand weakened 0.2% against the dollar 1710, 22.54 against the dollar, the pound, 1983 against the euro.
Thanks for that, Mark. We're right. We'll have more from the markets coming up with Jimmy Moya from 6 to 7 this evening. Look out for that.
Masandawana want to ensure that their DRC visitors have no say in Pretoria, the country's capital city. Meanwhile, the railmen are committed to a decent result away from home. This is the Group C first leg clash of the CAF Champions League. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus FC St. Eloi Lupopo. This Saturday, 22 November at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC 2. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's get to your calls, and there's a lot. In fact, what about Ramaphosa and the African National Congress as one example? But there's others, of course, and feedback regarding the Madlanga Commission.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm very disappointed with the commissioner, the National Commissioner of the Police. I don't know whether, I don't know, but he seemed to be very powerless. Sevilla is doing as he pleases. How can the docket, when the people are about to do a takedown, the matter of Eastern Cape, then all of a sudden Sevilla recalls the docket and the commissioner is there, or I don't know whether if the commissioner was told about this, but I just feel like Sevilla is being given too much to do whatever he pleases. This is not good for the safety and for the justice of our country. I believe the commissioner must just stand up and do something about this matter. Please, he must just... Yeah.
Okay, you clearly are very, very disappointed, and that in many ways is a reflection of the pulse of a nation. Here's one.
Hi, afternoon, Ashraf. Yeah, you know what's concerned me? Thing that I never heard anyone talking about. It's the decision of the NEC. Busy discussing Ramaphosa's exit. It's high time Cupcake Mr. I don't know. I'm surprised. Leave the office. The high time he leaves the office because all this stuff they happen under his administration. So it's time Ramaphosa pack his bags, go sit on the couch where he packed all the millions.
Okay, that's what you think. Let's get to another call. Mandla in Boxburg. Let's talk about the ANC too.
Yes, thank you very much, Ashraf. It's
Thank you.
about this threatening resignation of President Ramaphosa. I think he is shooting at it. Really. He's threatening non-existent force. Because, I say this because this thing came up the veteran politicians in Teresa. They sent out a WhatsApp claiming that there was a discussion in that session that Mr. Ramaphosa must be removed. So that's why this thing got led from, and then people started saying, well, there was a fortunately, several sessions went public with that WhatsApp message, and everybody was fabricating. So, better, and it's written by it is this is totally something with, Masanga is telling us like we are releasing Zondo and continue with the against members of the executive, giving special leave. I mean, what for?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
You don't have much confidence. I hear that. Thank you for that, Mandla in Boxburg. But a quick reaction. Well, in fact, you do know it's the president's birthday today, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf, to the team and the loyal listeners across the globe. Welcome back once again. Ashraf, today is the birthday of the president. Let's all unite and wish him a happy, happy birthday. We pray that in as much as we have him as the president, not all of us are happy about his performance. The performance is honestly unacceptable. He needs to do far better than what we are currently experiencing. It's Bramoro in Bloemfontein.
Okay, there we are. Well, look, I mean, listen, it's his birthday. It's his birthday. But do we? There's can we then encourage that everybody has to wish him well on his birthday and overlook some other issues that they have with him? I mean, I don't think I've got that power. I don't think I want to do that anyway. What about Gaten McKenzie?
Hey, Ashraf. The sports minister is not getting involved, man. He's just throwing shades at Nigerians for what? For their performance towards South Africa during the Mukwena Cielo Cards debacle. So he's doing this just to throw that shade. I understood it to be that. It's not that he's getting involved. He has huge interest. It's just should throwing shades at Nigeria. That's how I understood it.
Yes, I got that, but I mean, should he even be doing that? Like, we're talking about the minister. We're not talking about a member of the supporters club. That's what I'm asking you, right? Here's another.
Ashraf, welcome back. I think it's about time that the constitution of the country or the electoral system has to be reviewed, Ashraf. There is no way that a political party with a certain number of members could elect their president and that president would become the president of the country. I think it's about time. I know it's a fresh dream, but then I know it's going to happen one day where people will vote directly for their president.
Okay. In fact, we played that already, so it just didn't delete. So I'm not replaying it for emphasis. I must just tell you. But yeah, maybe the essence is there, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, leaders of the ANC must not think they own the ANC. We are the voters. We own ANC, not them. Whatever differences they have in the organizations, they must rather sort them out without using the organization's name in jeopardy. We, the people of South Africa, voted ANC into power, not them. ANC does not belong to them. If they had problems with Ramaphosa, they must stick to the constitution of the ANC and the rules of the ANC. Please, whoever is leading this conspiracy against Ramaphosa, because an ANC president is elected by the ANC National Executive Committee. So whatever differences they have, they must put their differences aside. Nobody is better to lead the ANC than the masses of this country. We South Africans. That's Mr. Nduta from Western Cape.
Okay, I think you've stated your case about the power of the people, and the question is, do the people truly have the power as you have suggested? Here's another one. Ramaphosa should just withdraw himself. He's just incompetent. The country's falling or falling each day, and Gayton is just a cat looking for a mouse. From Bonolo in Bloemfontein. Right, there's another that I want to play that links to the ANC president.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Who's likely to be the president of the ANC? There's no candidate, in my honest opinion. I don't feel like, I mean, credibility of the ANC overall is on the floor. And most of us, South Africans, we're just watching in awe of the disaster that's unfolding. And unfortunately, there's absolutely no candidate that we can simply pick out with confidence. This country is going downhill under the ANC. Thanks.
Well, you see, your last part is telling. If others would agree with you, even within the ANC, then maybe they're right to even call for a change. But the other part, which many have suggested, is like, seriously, who is the natural heir to the ANC crown? Should the president, well, he has to constitutionally as well at some stage walk out of the ANC leadership anyway, right? But whenever that happens, who is the natural heir to lead the African National Congress? And I can tell you now, many people I speak to, they are struggling to find a name. And that is also on the ANC. You see, this is it. This is the National Pulse.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, we know the Madlanga Commission normally ends around 4-ish, but it's extending to end at 6 o'clock today. So we'll take a bit more of the commission right now. Let's rejoin the Madlanga Commission now.
That's one example that I want to draw.
So the slides that you've pulled out, this is just for this particular day's tasking. You pulled it out from a broader set related to this case.
Indeed, Commissioner.
Okay, so the second example is on page 121.
Thank you. It's 121, and we can see there that there was 5 attempted murders and 3 murders. Actually, it's supposed to be other way around. It's 5 murders and 3 attempted murders, Commissioners. This happened in one of the locations in KZN, and how did we draw this? This is a parallel of the case that is written with red on top. We were using color codes. For someone who doesn't sit with the PKTT won't understand when you get there. But then with these commissioners, if it's reference of 2 cases or sometimes you find it's 5, we will ensure that the color of the tasking matches the color of the case, meaning this tasking is talking to this case. So in this instance, the feedback or the tasking there is talking to the color black of the case. How did we draw this particular case? It linked with ballistic to the main case. And this was a group of boys that was terrorizing people between these 2 areas in KwaZulu-Natal as per the areas of the case numbers. And they were used as inkabis. Therefore, this was gang-related for drugs, the one in black, and then the one in red, it was a councillor that was shot and killed, and one of the firearms 2 firearms were used in this matter. But unfortunately, we couldn't link them 100%. It's a 2021 matter, commissioners. If you look at our last report, there is 2023-08-07, meaning there was movement in this docket, there was attention given to this particular docket. So these were weekly report. This is where the tag jocks will be called, and we sit with Majok, where we will have a gathering, and we see, guys, there's no way that this particular case can defeat us. We need to work and solve it. So this is an example that this is not a day-to-day, but when we meet with the team and we populate as much as possible tasking in order to solve the case.
Thank you, Colonel. So that's page 122, but in the same case, if you turn to page 123, you see there's another meeting that took place of the team on the 21st of August 2023. And now on that left-hand column, you had the red case which you were trying to link. Now you have another case in red. So can you explain that?
Okay. Maybe if we can look first at the date that there is a gap in between. As I said, this is weekly reports, it's not daily, so there will be difference. As we continue with investigation, and this won't appear on the SAP5, the ballistic expert, they were able to link another case whereby the firearm that was used on the first top case with the third one was used. Then the second one was also linked, that there is a firearm that was used to murder that particular victim on the second one. Therefore, this is some of the work that won't appear on the SAP5 because it is done by who? By a certain expert, which is ballistic.
Okay, so you use ballistic reports to link these cases together?
Together, indeed, Commissioner.
Okay, and the last tasking was 21 August 2023?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, and the third example then, which starts on 124?
This was also a parallel case, commissioners, of the main case, which is red. And if the commissioners can look at our reference there, we've got color red and blue. And on our tasking and feedback, both these particular cases received attention. And on this matter, there were suspects that were arrested. And this particular one with blue, there was a defeat in there from one of the suspects that was charged. And the matter then appeared in court, and as we look at the feedback on the 2019-07-26, and it was then remanded for formal bail. And in the next page, commissioners, if we can page, then we get the instruction that the advocate there, he will consider the ends of justice at a later stage. Therefore, it means then this docket won't, ultimately charges were provincially withdrawn against one of the suspects because he said, hey, this is the advocate. Remember, we're working hand in hand with the advocates who have been advised. And then he said, can we put this person aside and then we focus on the matter first? Because this defeating hands of justice won't assist us much. And that was on July 2023 of 2019. But then the one with red, investigation continued because that was the murder of an IFP councillor. But later then, the charges were also provincially withdrawn. And maybe also I must mention that during court proceedings, when the charges were withdrawn, the defense then requested that that particular docket must be sealed off in front of the magistrate and everyone else. And it was done so. And to date, that particular docket, the one with ink red, is still sealed off, and it was put in the LCRC forensic bag, and it's closed. Therefore, should there be any evidence that we are getting, we need to go back, talk to the prosecutor, who will then inform the defense, and that docket that means whatever that we obtain, it will be on the site.
Right, that's where we'll pause and break away from the Madlanga Commission, because it's time for the news at 5 years. Call a fellow Tiff.
Thank you, Ashraf, and welcome back. Top stories at 5. ANC prioritizes skilled candidates for 2026 elections, and Sheikh Hasina sentenced to death. Good afternoon. The ANC is looking to get the best possible candidates to occupy senior positions and that of councillors in municipalities post the 2026 local government elections. Its selection criteria stipulates that those with criminal records post-1994, with criminal charges brought by the NPA and on suspension pending the outcome of a court case or disciplinary hearing, are ineligible for consideration. It further says that all candidates must agree to be vetted, make financial and other interest declarations, and agree to a lifestyle audit if so ordered. Secretary of the ANC Electoral Committee, Chief Libuwani Matsila.
Even the issue of the lifestyle audit was not as firmly expressed as now. You can see now we are seeing that we'll bring in reputable accounting and law firms to work with us if there's a need to deal with that. In 2021, we said that all councillors must have a matric qualification, but there's now a distinction between general councillors and those who are going to be mayors, speakers, and chief whips.
Lieutenant Colonel Ndade Khumalo says the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team, PKTT, happened suddenly as though he was being struck by lightning. Khumalo is currently testifying about the disbandment of PKTT and the subsequent handing over of the 121 dockets to the head office. The PKTT was disbanded on the 31st of last year, while the dockets were handed over to the head office in March this year. He says the decision to disband the unit had a negative impact on PKTT members and the victims whose cases they were investigating.
It damaged them. It left scars because there were cases that were remanded beginning of January. There were cases that were in the trial stage. Other members, they were out working on the 31st when this letter surfaced. And if you are sitting with a person of interest, sitting with a witness and he sees this, it tells you straight away that
the Eastern Cape beneficiaries of the Provincial Skills Development Programme are protesting outside the office of the Premier over unpaid October stipends. The province recently terminated its 32 million rand contract with Cheaper Training Academy after repeated payment delays and took over the programme, promising to pay interns by the 15th of this month. However, the beneficiaries say they are still waiting with no communication. The National Skills Fund-backed program is meant to provide workplace exposure for 3,800 young graduates, but administrative setbacks have left many facing eviction and struggling to cover basic expenses. The Office of the Premier has not yet responded. To the Western Cape, the City of Cape Town's Fire and Rescue Service says crews are actively monitoring a fire high up on the mountain slopes at Ocean View in the Cape Peninsula. Spokesperson Jameen Careless says vegetation has been burning since the early hours of this morning.
No property is in danger and no injuries have been reported. Ground crews from Table Mountain National Parks, NCC and Volunteer Wildfire Services are attending to several hotspots higher up on the slopes of the affected area. For more information, please reach out to Table Mountain National Parks.
And finally, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, has dismissed the judgment to sentence her to death as politically motivated and called the use of the death penalty distasteful. A special tribunal found she was responsible for the ordering of violent crackdown on student-led protests last year. More than 1,000 people were killed during the protest that toppled her government. Hasina is currently in exile in India. The BBC's Arunodai Mukherjee is outside the court in Dhaka.
Where I'm standing, I've been seeing a small group of people erupt in joy and sort of chant, sloganeering, saying, "We demand that Sheikh Hasina be hanged." There are also sort of chants in support of the verdict that I can hear just outside the court premises, very loud chants, in fact, as soon as the verdict came out. So it has certainly been an emotive trial, and the verdict equally eliciting those kind of emotions that I can pick up here on the ground.
Recapping the top story at 5, the ANC is looking to get the best possible candidates to occupy senior positions and that of councillors in municipalities post the 2026 local government elections. Headlines at 5:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
In sports this hour, Springboks 2026 Nations Championship opponents confirmed and Joshua to fight YouTube star Paul in December. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, Ballyclare Road in Bryanston has a crash at St Audley Road, and Heidelberg Road southbound in City Deep has a crash at the N17 highway. In KZN, the N3 is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 gateway exit, and the N2 northbound a stationary truck before Queen Nandi Drive. In Cape Town, on the N2, there's a grass fire reported with smoke affecting visibility near the airport exit. The R44 in Fisher Haven is where a crash is reported at the R43 junction, and Albert Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
So you just switched to a different brand of baby toiletries, and you're still getting toiletries gently formulated to moisturize and protect, from shampoo, body wash and baby oil to powder and lotions with mild ingredients like lavender and chamomile for everyday use. Because you made a clever switch to Clicks Made for Baby products with Clicks trusted quality and great value. When you switch, it just clicks. Switch and save only at Clicks.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So that story about Sheikh Hasina, or Sheikha Hasina, lady, former leader of Bangladesh, is really one that I think one may likely discuss. Of course, she was then found guilty of, inciting things in Bangladesh that saw over 1,000 people dying. She's now in exile in India, but she's been found guilty of that, convicted, and now been sentenced to death. I wonder where you sitting on that particular story, right? There's been other developments as well. that I'll hopefully touch on just now. Ronald Lamola, one of them, South Africa's Minister of International Relations, again being very clear about the ambiguity around that flight from Israel or Palestine that arrived with those Palestinian, let's call them refugees in this country. And there's also been an update on that from the Haaretz newspaper in Israel, which if I get a chance, I'll talk about that as well just now. And maybe the last thing, I believe there's about 38 billboards now, 38 in the build up to G20, certainly very tactical, which says, welcome to the most race-regulated country in the world. I followed that story, of course, when I was abroad, but nobody spoke about it there. That I can assure you of that. No, not at all. And when I get a chance, not now, maybe later on, I'll touch on over the next few days some of the findings and takeouts of my visit, first to the One Young World Summit in Munich, and then the holiday part in France or Paris, and some of the lessons that we can all learn from that. But what about lessons between the USA and Cuba? Now, the United Nations General Assembly adopted, this is recent, right, a resolution calling on the United States to end its economic embargo on Cuba. So that embargo began in 1960 and it loosened to a degree in the year 2000 to allow food and humanitarian goods to be sent to that country. However, it's known that the Cuban government has asked for a complete end to the sanctions, arguing that the embargo is a failed policy that primarily harms Cubans and hinders the country's economic development. So the question is, why did it all start? And how really do the Cubans expect this to be overturned finally, if at all? With me is the Cuban ambassador to South Africa, Ambassador Fakri Rodriguez Pinello. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Yeah, sure. Nice to be here on.
Thank you. Right. So let's talk about this. I mean, first of all, just give us some context in terms of the fact that every year this issue gets tabled at the United Nations and a resolution gets passed for the embargo to be lifted. And every year it gets turned down by the Americans themselves, being a permanent member of the Security Council. Why do you think it's going to ever change?
Yeah, well, I mean, the UN, as you say, for 33 years now, has discussed the unjust blockade on Cuba by the UN. So much years, as you say, 60s on. So, it's a resolution that Cuba presents at the General Assembly. And in the last years, has had an overwhelming support from the international community. Just last month, we had the vote. 165 countries voted in favor of ending the U.S. blockade on Cuba. So I think that sends a pretty big message to the U.S. on its foreign policy on Cuba.
But I mean, you know, and I know that, messages sent to the United States about their foreign policy through the United Nations is not necessarily a requisite for the U.S. to change their policy. I can think of many things, including South Africa right now and the issue of Palestine.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, our way to have saying internationally against this policy. Of course, the United Nations General Assembly does not have a mandate to stop the blockade on the U.S. It's merely political foreign policy section from the U.S. towards Cuba. But it does put a lot of pressure since it's the international community crying out loud to stop this blockade on Cuba.
Let's be clear. When you talk about lifting the U.S. embargo, specifically what embargo has been in place in Cuba right now? Because there's been degrees. There was an embargo in 1960. There's, as we mentioned in the intro, there's been some loosening. So currently, when we talk about an embargo, what is it?
Well, definitely, the embargo has gone through a lot of different phases. I mean, today, most of the policy towards Cuba is embedded in U.S. law. So it's a matter of fact that state on Cuba is codified in the American law. So it's very difficult to lift it without consent from the U.S. Congress, which, has a lot of members, 435 members of Congress. But presidents do have the prerogative to loosen up some of the restrictions, especially regarding visits to Cuba. Remember, Americans are prohibited by American law to visit Cuba in a touristic manner. But the American presidents do have the right to loosen some categories Americans that can travel to Cuba under permission from the U.S. government. So these type of things have happened in the past. Although nowadays, really the Trump administration has tightened it to real catastrophic levels. I mean, we have a very difficult pathway to having a just commercial action in the world. I mean, most of the banking system, which is very intertwined with American banking systems, have put in place a lot of restrictions for Cuban transactions. So it becomes really very, very, very difficult to do international commerce in a normal way. So that is one of the effects. Also, we talk about, for example, now Cuba had a harsh hurricane affecting the eastern part of the country, and we are in need of a lot of supplies. We are an island. We don't have borders. So we have to import most of the things that we need, especially in a time of crisis. Imagine that the shipping companies that move containers and worldwide commerce, most of the ships that travel to Cuba and dock in a Cuban port, they are prohibited by American law to touch an American port afterwards. So imagine how detriment that is to our commerce. So these are just examples of how the blockade really affects the country and how it usually works.
I mean, central to the blockade is how Americans have perceived the Cuban actions and relationship with America in the first place. You know, I mean, give us some context of that in terms of how did all this go wrong in the first place in the 1960s. Of course, Fidel Castro at that stage was the leader of your nation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there was a decision by the Cuban people in 1959 to be really independent, establish a sovereign country. Before 1959, although we had a republic installed in 1902, really what we had was a pseudo republic, because most of the leaders in Cuba in that period, before 1959, they had a mandate from the U.S. to govern. And we also had in our constitution certain amendments which allowed for American intervention, even military intervention. So after 1959, really, Cuba became independent and free. So I think, of course, that, and history is everybody knows the history about what happened in Cuba. I mean, the people took the power through Fidel Castro and the guerrilla that was armed, supported by the Cuban people. So, of course, there were a lot of businesses in the U.S. were affected because imagine that Cuba, being an island of, at that time, of around 9 million people, 6 families controlled most of the agricultural land in Cuba. So imagine how difficult was the relationship between the poor people, the peasants from the countryside. So, of course, all of this had affected American companies, and I think it's the genesis, of course, of policy nowadays. Of course, then we are unable by them, to have an independent policy, and that's what it has guided American policy.
I was going to ask you, sometimes you need another country to get involved as a mediator to break the ice. Now, I would have suggested South Africa, but no, I'm not going to do that for reasons that I think are very topical and very obvious, right? Having said that, are there any, behind the scenes negotiations taking place? Because sometimes we hear what happens at UN General Assembly level where there's a sense of performance that takes place. But what about behind the scenes?
I'm not sure about it. I don't think so. Trump administration has been very clear about its position again on Cuba. We have a very clear hand in the fact that we are in favor of having a conversation with the United States government, but of course in equal terms, on a normal to normal pace. We are not in any way going to have a conversation under pressure or having preconditions. But we are open to it. We have demonstrated that in the past. We have been willing to exchange with American policy, but nowadays there isn't that possibility. It's zero conversation going on.
Okay, just lastly, the G20 is upon us. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations?
Yeah, well, we are very happy. I mean, how South Africa has conducted its year-long direction of the G20. South Africa is a key player globally, but especially for the global South, have been handling the G20 has been very important. We commend South Africa for it. We are sure that the countries that guide the global South I mean, just the slogan of the summit entitled what the Global South stands for and the need for a better world. So we really are appreciative of what South Africa has done, and we wish South Africa most successes in its summit. I'm sure it's going to be a success.
Okay. And what for you would mean success? How do you measure that the summit, which is the culmination of the entire year, would be a success?
Well, just the discussions that are taking place with the language that is taking place. I think that's already big. And not only that, I mean, most of the conversation that's going on has to do with putting the global south in the center, especially Africa, continent, Africa. So I think that's already successful for Africa.
Okay, let's leave it at that, and let's see what finally emerges. The Cuban ambassador to South Africa, Ambassador Fakri Rodriguez Pinelo, I much appreciate your time. And of course, outside of the G20, Cuba has bigger issues about lifting that blockade of over 30 odd years or so. Thank you for your time here on the National Pulse.
Summer just got extra with Vodacom's free gifts on summer deals, like the Samsung Galaxy A56 on a 1 gig red core plan for just $399 per month over 36 months. Save $1,080 and get a free Samsung charger worth $499 and Samsung Galaxy Buds Core worth $999, redeemable via Samsung Members app. Available in-store only. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
48 nations, one dream.
The FIFA Under-17 World Cup hits Qatar and Mzansi's Amajimbos are in the fight.
It's game on everywhere. From 3 to 27 November, catch the action live on SABC Plus, SABC Radio, and SABC TV.
Download SABC Plus now. Stream, listen, watch.
SABC Sport, for the love of the game.
The Morning Brief.
Anyone who's ever been anywhere near Mzwane Lemanye and heard him laugh, you will know that signature laugh. Even if you walk into a room with lots of people, which actually happened a couple of years ago while out on a story. And he just laughed and I knew that, okay, Mzwane is somewhere in this room. I can't make you laugh because... Okay. I knew that would trigger him. Thank you for that. That's Mzwane Lemanye. He's got a signature laugh, right? He's got a signature laugh.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, what we're going to do now, let's get back to, well, this extended version of the Madlanga Commission.
And then on all three, this where the verbal approval was given that J50, members can go and arrest, but then we have subsequently submitted a J50 for the approval, and upon receiving that, we will then follow the process of circulating this suspect. It's 4 suspects in total on the media, and hopefully the community at large will be able to assist in locating.
32.4.
This case, one suspect was identified, and the docket was since submitted on the 17th of September to the prosecutor for their decision on giving us a go-ahead to go and apprehend the suspect.
Okay, it says for a decision on 17 September 2025. There's no further update that you have.
So far, no, I haven't received any further update.
And 32.5.
On this one, 2 suspects were positively identified and investigation is complete. Therefore, the docket also was submitted on the 5th of November 2025 to get further directive and a decision from the prosecutors.
Okay, thank you.
And you say this is over how many months?
This is since August. This is 3 months, if one can put it, or 4. Yes.
So the progress you're telling us about is what, only 4 matters? I'm not stating this as criticism, but this is only 4 matters.
Yes, it's only 4 matters, commissioners, and I should mention the fact that majority of the time the members remain in court. I don't know if the commissioners are following the news these days. There's been a lot of success in terms of conviction that are being circulated on the communication platforms for the PKTT. Therefore, courts, they consume a lot of the investigators' time, but then with also the new docket, as I said, that when a new docket is reported, the team focus on it in order to persevere and secure the evidence that might be tempered or, as we said, the video footage that might overwrite and so forth.
But would you not also say that perhaps this is a function of the significant reduction of the PKTT resources?
It is. That is why on paragraph 33, Commissioner, I've mentioned that due to the fact that if the team can be capacitated, the team will be full in its working swing, and there can be fast progress in terms of investigation and taking the matters back to court.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so the last chapter you deal with then is the effect of disbandment on the work of the PKTT. Now, some of this you've already spoken about. We've just heard from you on what the impact has been on the team being scaled down, and the impact on, therefore, the progress of investigation of the dockets. So you don't need to repeat that evidence.
Yes.
But can you tell us about the other aspects of the effect of the disbandment with reference to paragraph 34?
The members were, commissioners, receiving a lot of dissatisfaction from the victims' families, from the victims that are involved in attempted murders and so forth because of this letter. And whenever the members receive such, they need to tell the TACJOC commanders. And the TACJOC commanders need to take it upon himself or herself to engage with the families, because that's one of our strong points of engaging all the time with and give progress to the family members. But I must put it on record that from the 121, not all of them have reached out on us. Even us, we've never reached out to all 121 family members. But then a few of those have, and the members of 34.1, the commander had to phone the victims' families there that reassuring them that investigation will continue, be it that the team is no more there. Investigation will continue. If the team still remains and dockets are brought back by God's luck, then the team will continue where they left. And then if we page to page 18, on 34.2, that's one of the instances where one of the prosecutor was saying some remarks that the IO was not happy with. And the IO immediately then informed the commander, of whom the commander reached out on me that, hey, Colonel, we're having issues, because if now the prosecutor come and mention such things to the members, why members, what's happening, because the task team has been disbanded on the media. What must the members feel like and all that the PKTT members are not around, while the PKT member was there at court. So this had a serious impact, not only on the victims, but then, in a broader aspect. And that also includes the 34.3 and 34.4 commissioners. And I think on the 34.4, it's worse in a sense that it affected the member directly as well, whereby a J50 was executed, then the team had to go and charge the suspect. And whenever we do this, sometimes when we want to obviously charge the member or continue obtaining the warning statement and so forth, With warning statement, you interview the member. There's a document, SAP document that you complete and all that. But then when the team arrive at that particular station, as it's stated on sentence number 3 of paragraph 34.4, the branch commander, Lieutenant Colonel, informed the members that they are there unlawfully so because there is a letter that has been circulated that they are disbanded. You are in the middle of investigation, commissioners, and you receive this. The team didn't tell me immediately because I would have driven there and tell them that you stay here, you are police officers. These buildings, property, it belongs to government and you are employee of the government. You shouldn't leave. Or I would have phoned the station commanders. But the members, for peace sake, they left, they went to another police station. This had an interference and it's affecting the work of PKTT. Then the next one, maybe I will go to 34.6.
So 34.5 is another example of the confusion in the family and the concern that was expressed by family.
Indeed.
Okay. And there were attempts made to then...
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the headlines this hour, the death toll in the Saturday's N8 crash involving a bus and a truck between Botshabelo and Bloemfontein has risen to 11. The ANC is looking to get the best possible candidates to occupy senior positions and that of councillors and municipalities post the 2026 local government elections. And beyond the borders, police in Nigeria say gunmen have killed a teacher and abducted at least 25 students from a girls' school. I'll have details at 6.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston is slow moving towards Geldenhuys interchange. The N12 R24 northbound in Bedfordview queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange, and SK Mpatleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, on the N3 queuing traffic on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 northbound has a stationary track before Queen Nandi Drive. In Cape Town, on the N1 Huguenot Tunnel, there will be overnight closures on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday evenings from 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. the following morning. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Muway, Kuberg Road northbound in Milnerton, slow moving towards Tanzanite Boulevard. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Kapele.
Right, to me, if the reports are true, then we better get used to a new name of a new rugby competition.
And the Springboks will host England, Scotland, and Wales in July next year in the first edition of the New Nations Championship. So basically, the tournament, which is created by SANZA and Six Nations Rugby, brings together the world's top 12 rugby nations in a competition that will happen every 2 years to determine the best team in the game. And the Southern Hemisphere is represented by South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, Japan, and Fiji, while England, France, Ireland, Italy, Scotland, and Wales from the Six Nations team make up the Northern Hemisphere group. Meanwhile, red cards are a big concern for Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus, but he has hailed his squad's adaptability under pressure, but also feels sad for those who bear the consequences of the red card disruption.
It's more what happens from those decisions, you know, and for the referee, he doesn't have slow motions and all the things that happens there. He trusts very much in the team. I think it was 2 French teams, the EMO and the one AR, I'm not 100% sure, I think so.
But you got a better of that. In the end.
Yeah, we did get the better, but individuals suffer from big moments and things that they can celebrate, and that makes us tighter as a team and makes us more desperate. But it doesn't take the hurt away from. So yes, we're glad that we could overcome that. But I'm sad for Ben Jason and for him, because they were also guys who lay at the end have to take the brunt for what somebody else did by accident wrong, which then get a red card. So we're happy with the character, but I'm sad for the guys who cost the brunt.
In terms of football, Bafana Bafana coach Hugo Bruce has admitted that he's got more tough decisions to make before announcing his travelling squad for the Africa Cup of Nations. AFCON starts on the 21st of December, with Bafana kicking off their campaign on the 22nd against Angola in Morocco.
I'm already thinking about the day that I have to announce 23 players. It will not be easy, certainly for certain positions. So it will be very difficult. And what happens today is that you give playtime on players who didn't play so much in the past, and to see how they are react, how they are adapting to the team tactics and to the team play. And again, I'm certainly satisfied. I'm certainly satisfied, not 100%.
Well, still staying with football, Barcelona will finally return to Camp Nou against Athletic Bilbao on the 22nd of November in La Liga. Barcelona will open the stadium with a temporary capacity of 45,401 spectators, with a space for 105,000 only open when the top tier is completed. They're also hoping to receive a green light from UEFA to host Eintracht Frankfurt on the 9th of December. Then Stellenbosch FC, who have been forced into moving the opening fixture of the CAF Confederation Cup group stage at the Peter Mokaba Stadium due to unavailability of the Western Cape venues. They take on AS Otago this weekend. And in terms of motorsport, Lando Norris has admitted that he's not looking forward to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. This is due to concerns that McLaren could struggle again at the street circuit. Norris has claimed successive victories in Mexico and Brazil to open a 24-point lead over his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri at the top of the Drivers' Championship, but is far from confident going into the first of the 3 back-to-back races to the end of the season. Meanwhile, former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua will fight YouTube star Jake Paul in a professional bout on the 19th of December in Miami, and the fight, which will be streamed live on Netflix, will consist of 8 3-minute rounds. That's it. It is a wrap from my side.
But it's not a wrap from my side. I mean,
Okay.
so this new championship, or whatever they call it,
Yes.
like I'm just wondering how many significant countries are not included in that, because they've got the North. I think countries like Samoa may
Yep.
be absent in Fiji, but I mean, like, that's a World Cup, man.
Literally.
It is a World Cup.
It's basically a World Cup.
And when I argued about the FIFA World Cup being too large, so it makes it easier for.
But is it easy with all these coaches complaining about the whole process
Well,
of
that's
it?
coaches complaining, because that's their job to complain when they don't qualify.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, well, look at the numbers. How many African countries qualify
20,
this time?
I think 9, yeah.
Right? So before it was 5. So
Mm.
it tells you that. So this is not referring to the coach. That means 4 more will qualify every time.
And
So
I hear you.
It's easier.
I'm
It means,
just-
but it's larger. That means it's a larger tournament.
Of course.
Right? Which means it's more bloated, which also means in the groups of 4, the 2 teams normally qualifies for the next stage, which means you can't afford to lose 2 games.
True.
Now it's 3 teams that qualifies. So you have to, in most cases, it's only the 4th place team that doesn't get to the knockout stage, which must be pretty useless if you don't. Right? But to go back to the rugby point, the problem then is you have this glut of tournaments, and this sounds like
Schedule.
another whole World Cup.
Mm,
So
definitely.
like, no.
I don't
It'll be
know.
great.
We'll
I'll
see.
watch when I watch it, but I'm looking at the greater scheme of it. It just becomes too much.
How's it going to affect the players? I mean,
Mm.
you're already seeing it in other sports. Tennis players complaining about the schedule. Even in football, there's already players complaining about the schedule. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it seems like the load is becoming more for athletes
yeah.
lately.
Having said that, I might just throw my line into this thing. I was at the Stade de France when the Box beat France, and they were down at halftime and then down to 14 men
Yeah.
and down by 3 points. And the recovery was just magic. But the atmosphere at that stadium, even in the pre-stadium build-up with all the lights, was quite a sight. But to be part of the group of South Africans, because I was in the South African family enclosure, I'm not related to any player there, just so that you know, it's family and friends. What a privilege. And again, nothing drums up your love for your country when you play and win abroad. Really,
True.
absolute magic.
I can imagine. Well, with that said, ke nna tumeng kgapela, Modimo ke yo.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November 2025 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
It's Black November at MTN. A whole month of great deals. Get a 100 gig MTN mobile internet Ruby plan, now just $319 per month for 12 months. And for just 20 Rand extra per month, add a 4G pocket router and connect up to 10 devices. Plus, get a free 10 gig startup bundle, redeemable on the MTN app. So don't miss out. Visit an MTN store or mtn.co.za now. T's and C's apply. Today, we make moves. MTN.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to the other numbers with Jimmy Moyang with the SAFM market update coming up from 6 to 7. So do listen out for that. But what's your big story, Jimmy?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. It's good to have you back. We're going to be looking at something you missed last week while you were away, was as part of the midterm budget policy statement tabled by the Minister of National Treasury, we got confirmation that South Africa is exploring the idea of a 15 billion rand infrastructure bond. We're going to look at that with the chief economist at Rand Merchant Bank, Isaiah Mhlanga, and try and make sense of that and get a sense of what that would even look like in the bond markets that we have today and how attractive that would be for investors. We did just recently as Friday, in fact, get upgraded by Standard & Poor's Global. So the ratings of South Africa is a little higher, still relatively junk status by investment standards, but we are one notch higher than where we were, and that was an important move for us. So perhaps this infrastructure bond could line up with more positive moves for the South African economy. We're also going to speak to the CEOs of Astral Foods and WeBuyCars about the numbers from both businesses. In both cases, we got full year's numbers. We're going to speak to them and get a sense of how each of the companies have fared. And then we'll have a conversation with the team at Bonitas Medical Fund around navigating the medical aid landscape in South Africa and how to choose the right medical aid service provider. And then Mondays, we have our Digital Drive feature that alternates out with our Personal Finance feature, obviously. Digital Drive, this week, we're taking a look at how to stay safe this Black Friday or this Black November and how to navigate online shopping if you are looking for these Black Friday deals. So that's what's coming up on the show a little later on. Before we get to that, a sense of market movements throughout the day. It's been a bit of a choppy start to the week. By and large, equity markets were in the red. The ASX in Sydney, surprisingly, that was in the green, slightly though, about 2 basis points to the green there. The only other international market currently in the green is the Nasdaq, up about 0.1%. But Asian markets, European markets, and the S&P all in the red. Biggest loser in European markets would have been the DAX in Germany, down 0.75%, whilst the Hang Seng in Hong Kong was down a similar margin there. In terms of US markets, the S&P is down about 0.1% at the moment. South African markets, on the other hand, financial stocks up 1.4%, carrying the top 40 and the all share. The industrials were down about 0.25%, as was resources. The all share, as a result, was up about 1/3, and the top 40 up almost 0.25%. On the commodity side of things, the gold price is down $4,071 a fine ounce. The silver price is still above $50 at $50.87 or 88 cents. The platinum pricing, 1,550, palladium 1,397, so below 1,400 then, below 1,600 in case of platinum. Brent crude, $64.38 a barrel, a little weaker than where we left it last week. The rand also a bit weaker, 17 Rand 11 against the US dollar, but 22 Rand 52 against the British pound, 19.83 against the euro, and 11 Rand 13 against the Australian dollar. Anyone looking at a Bitcoin, $94,000 a Bitcoin, or in Rand terms, 1.6 million Rands or there and thereabouts. So the price of a Bitcoin considerably cheaper than where it was a couple of weeks ago. We're going to look at these and other movements a little later on when we come back after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
All right, perfect. Good to connect with you once again. It's been a while indeed, Jimmy Moyah. But 6 to 7, catch the SAFM market update.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
In fact, let's get some more of your thoughts on this one. There's some comments from you. Let's just pick up. And there's one about the ANC president.
Ramaphosa must not be blamed for the fall of the ANC on the elections to get 40%. It's the ANC itself, corrupt members who influenced the municipalities or the services to be poor because of the revelation we people saw from Sondo Commission. So that in itself made ANC decline day by day. Thanks, Willie and Puma.
Thanks for that, Willie. And from one name, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The notorious Mabelane in Sigagula village in Akornuk. I'm not an ANC member, but I see one person who can save the ANC, and people or ANC members are not talking about him. They're still talking about Paul Mashatile, bringing Becky back. There is Aaron Mutwalid. I don't remember hearing anything bad about him. That guy is clean. He loves South Africa. So he's the only one. I can vote for him. I'm not an ANC member, but I vote for him to be the president of South Africa. Aaron Mutwalid. Besides that, all other ANC comrades are the same, but the guy is clean.
Okay, interesting.
Ashraf.
Thank you for that. Two things come out of that. I'm not an ANC member, but I vote for him. It's like, you picking the team of the team that you don't like, if you get my point. But on the other hand, interesting the point about Masulet, you said he's clean, suggesting that the criteria is who is clean, and the fact that he, according to you, is like the exception to the rule, is, well, it sticks out, doesn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I don't believe this halabaloo about people was to remove Ramaphosa. It's far-fetched. I mean, ANC doesn't have numbers, Ashraf. If that will be very short-sighted for anyone to think that in Parliament that person will not be voted. The next thing, if ANC is not careful or those distractors, will find Keynesian as a president of the country. Must be very careful, those guys.
Well, look, it's a big political gambit. You remove Ramaphosa, and if you don't have a natural leader to inspire people, then what do you have with? And I think I get your point. Okay, I certainly get your point.
Hello, my brother. Let me tell you, there's no candidate there suitable. Only what I can understand is if they can put an interim caretaker of the government from the ANC who will be, yes, I go with Tebogo, that for one of the formers who are still in the ANC, maybe Tabombeki or the other Ndate there who used to be president only for 1 month. Yes, that Ndate is Khalema, yes. Otherwise, there's no one, my brother. And I want to warn the EFF that they should be careful. They should never be tempted to join that thing of unity, what. Because now it's the EFF time. It's either EFF or DA. There's no way.
Okay, it's either EFF or DA. Really? Is that how you see it? I don't know. I think that suggests that that's it. I think it's a lot more complicated than that because there are lots of different groupings vying for power. Well, what about the other issues of a name of a person called Lamola?
I mean, like Ashraf, you listen to the guy
called Ronald Lamola. He's clearly lying. He's lying. I mean, for this politician, I think the biggest problem they have is the media, because the media, time and time again, is the one that is exposing these things. If it was for these politicians, we all know these people are pro Gaza, so they knew exactly. But there's this backfire in the country now because journalists have discovered that. So now they're lying. This country. No wonder Xi Jinping is not coming here. South Africa is very weak. We are from that.
No, but I mean, you're talking about Xi Jinping not coming because they're weird in the week. No, that's really it's not absolutely the norm that leaders of countries pitch up for these G20 summits. In fact, it happens very often where they don't come. About the lying part, it's interesting. I'm going to try and read something just now. In fact, there's a piece in the Haaretz newspaper from Israel that actually confirms the Lamola line, that somebody from within Israel has, with an agenda within the Israeli defense, I believe, and I need to get the names right, but we can check it up just now, has actually set this all up. And this is today's Haaretz. I mean, check it up, okay? HAARETZ. I'll try and maybe post it on Twitter as well if I get the opportunity, right? So there we are. Lots of things that happen globally we don't really understand.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Welcome back. Flores here from the beautiful winelands. Ashraf, for me, what's really disappointing is that the Chinese leader canceled to come here. And China has such a lot of interest in Africa. That for me is quite sad. I would really like to know what the reason is for that. Have a good job. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you for that. From Florence, right? And there's a more. Here's another.
Hey, good afternoon, Ashraf. Ndebo is talking about inside ANC. Outside ANC, something is cooking. Did you hear what that general from Navy, what was he saying? There is a plot that is coming around, and he started with the defense general. Something big is coming. But I don't blame people. Ramaphosa has failed dismally. The country is on its knees now.
Country is.
He has to go.
Okay.
It's BK from Durban. Thank you, Ashraf.
But that suggests that the ANC itself will thrive without him. And it also suggests that other political parties are thriving. And I don't know whether that could be attributed them to say that's actually true. So just think about that.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, talking about the African National Congress, what are their plans? They have a plan for the 2026 local government election, and in light of many of the comments that we have on this show, I would think that you'd be very interested to know what their plans are, and they would be very interested to know what you think, right? So here's the story. They had a media briefing at the Chief Albert Luthuli House, and the ANC outlined its preparations for the upcoming local election, and there are significant decisions made around mayoral candidates and who's eligible for nomination. Let's find out more about it with Chief Libowani Matsila, the ANC Secretary of the Electoral Committee. Much appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
No, thank you very much, Asha, and
Right.
the listeners.
So let's start firstly with the issue of the naming of mayoral candidates. Tell me what's been decided.
So the process or announcement to name the mayoral candidates will be done by the national officials after due consideration of the rules approved by the committee. And the decision is of that announcement of this.
So it'll happen imminently. That means, right? Well ahead of the actual election. Why so?
I think it's a consideration that maybe for the metro and secondary cities, it is important for the state to know who the candidates are going to be. That'll probably give the age for the candidates, acceptability, popularity, the various communities. Get feedback on the candidates are being.
And do you find, I mean, that was not the norm before. What was the norm for the ANC? That only a mayoral candidate would be, announced or put up as a mayor, as a candidate, that is, even after the election?
Yes, it will normally be done after the election, when all candidates are in place and have been voted for and registered in place. So this is a change of mind.
Do you find, in this case, clearly, I mean, the mayoral candidate then has the responsibility to drive that local council, the vote, whether it's a big city or something smaller, which I think makes sense to me. But it does suggest that perhaps maybe the ANC has looked at what's happened in previous elections to say maybe the absence of that figure in the build-up to an election has cost you votes.
Yes, I think that's considered. The ANC more on visuality with, and the issue of capacity also in terms of the qualifications that are now required in this case. Any that when anyone to be a mayor or any municipality in the that person of the qualification and 3 years as council. That's quite the past. Showing.
Okay, so let's be clear. You're saying a tertiary qualification to be an appointed elected mayor. That doesn't apply to other positions within say ward councils, right? This is the mayor only. Again, why that shift? We may think we know why, but maybe you tell us.
This is a consideration and a research that we need to make sure that those who are deployed as mayors have got this ordinary. In the you will see late make some record. So generally, the mayor must have much more understanding of policies and law applicable in the municipality. That only possible is enough to comprehend those.
I mean, do I take it that is a direct response to many of the arguments about poor service delivery, whether it's metros or at even regional or local level, that the people then who are elected reflect the will of the people, but then the reality is they are not fit for purpose. And this is a good example to avoid people who are not fit for purpose being elected.
Yeah, spot on there, Ashraf. It's a question of balancing popularity and capacity. Whereas previous processes would rely heavily on popularity. This time around, we're seeing that capacity must be popularity. Popularity may not bring in the that will result in this more improved delivery to the communities.
What about? I also understand one of the other issues that's been brought up as a clear policy issue is the eligibility for nomination of candidates, and you've tightened that up as well, right? Outside the mayor, tell me about that.
Yes, the issue of criminal records, for instance, if the criminal you are not eligible and charged of law eligible to that regularity found guilty in the last also not eligible. So if you remember, Spain,
Okay,
the integrity yes also had finding it, and those with the will also not be
okay.
eligible.
Right, time's against us. We've got 30 seconds to the news. What then are your thoughts about? I understand the rationale behind it, but many may argue that there's been so many people within the ANC who have had grey areas around their leadership and what they've been accused of doing. That wouldn't this be, just lend itself to even further political infighting, which, as we know, we've seen that play out regarding those inquiries at within safety and security, as per the Madlanga Commission. So within the ANC in particular.
No, I think it's good that they are still because in the absence of standards, so everybody should be able to understand, such, but there's much more the process. If you know that these are the good standards, everybody is going to abide. When you don't have that, then you have people being put in place when they have no control. So I think really make sure that consider those things.
Okay. Yeah. Just a quick one, and you've just got one line to answer this. How would you respond to someone saying, because we get many people on this show telling us to say, the ANC is just wasted. It's a completely wasted vote on that party now. We don't want to vote for them. They must just go. Just in one sentence, how would you respond to that?
No, there's no other option in the country except I think we are now seeing when others are in the government of national unity. They are beginning to show their last society. So we don't have an option except to rebuild and renew the ANC.
Of course, that's from the ANC perspective. No other option. One day the voters believe in what you've just said. Much appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll have further chats down the line. And that's Chief Libuwane Matsila, the ANC Secretary of the Electoral Committee. Lots to come out of that conversation, I can assure you. Let's think about it. That's day one for me back. Thanks for joining us. Listen to the podcast of the conversations we've had. We'll do it again tomorrow with the National Pulse. It's time for the news at 6 years. Kolofelo.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 6. Free State crash. Death toll climbs to 11 and teacher killed while 25 girls abducted in Nigeria. Good evening. The death toll in the Saturday's N8 crash involving a bus and a truck between Botshabelo and Bloemfontein has risen to 11. Free State Health MEC says the 11th victim died today while in ICU at Bilonomi Hospital. MEC Munyazi Mahlatsi expressed sadness for the loss of lives over the past week.